Well, first of all, I'm Al Ackerman, and I'm a Republican candidate for Ellis County Commission, District Number 2. I'm a native of Northwest Kansas. I grew up in Hoxie, raised on a farm there. And after high school, I got into oil field work and experienced the decline in the oil field, the slump that occurred in the 80s. And at that point, I moved into a law enforcement career, which I just recently retired as a lieutenant with the Kansas Highway Patrol. And after a 28-year career in law enforcement. And since then, I've been working part-time for a local Ellis County farmer.
Okay, very nice. I'm from St. Francis, so I was curious. You're a fellow Northwest Kansas guy. So, I guess we'll start with your background in the oil and gas industry. That's been kind of a problem facing Ellis County. That's one of our number one. That's basically what we've been known for, and for you to be going through that once before. What's your outlook on it as you get ready to try and run for county commission and maybe take a seat on the commission?
Well, as I said, I experienced that slump in the oil economy back in the mid-'80s. So I've experienced that pain. It caused me to be out of a job, be unemployed, and so I kind of can empathize with people on that regards. And as far as oil prices, it's all about the world market and where oil's going, supply and demand. But with the lower oil prices, however, they've recovered some. Obviously, as we've all heard, that there's a decline in revenue for Ellis County. And that being said, there's only so much money in the coffers, and it's like anybody. If you have a checkbook and the balance is low, you need to stop writing checks. So that's how it affects us on the local level. As far as the oil income.
Sure. Running for the commission, what do you think of the job they're doing now? And again, not necessarily a certain person, but as far as how do you evaluate the job they're doing now?
Well, obviously, when times are tough, as they are now, economically, the county commission can be a thankless job, and regardless of any personal opinions of any individual, it's a tough job, and I'm going to be first to admit that they are pretty good at what they're doing as far as overall. Now, there's things that, based on the information that I have, which probably isn't all the information, that I would have chosen to do different. However, that is somewhat biased because I don't have all the information.
Sure. And kind of with an outsider's perspective, what are some of those things where you think that maybe they could have done a better job?
Well, like I said, though, with not having all the information
Sure.
available to me in the process, if we go back several years with the property at 22nd and Vine and the EMS building, the jail, and all those items, just based on the information I have, I think there could have been different avenues to explore, and maybe would have been a better option than the jail system that's in place now. Even though we have a so-called new jail, it's extremely problematic.
Right.
That's one item. Another thing that could be a possibility, and there again, I don't know, this is just based on my personal experience, my supervisory and leadership skills in the past, is like County Road and Bridge takes up a large portion of the county budget. Mm-hmm. And there may be options available for work schedules that maybe could make that work more efficient. Replacing equipment, I'm not sure what their purchase agreements are and things like that could save the county money. And one of the things as a county commission that obviously affects everybody in the community is taxes. And when you spend money and talk of tax increases, the public doesn't care to hear that.
Right. So, Road and Bridge was part of the combination. They combined, they transferred Bill Ring from his position to Road and Bridge, but they also combined health with EMS to try and save money. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, I know it's an effort to save money, but it also moves Bill around and it moves Kerry McHugh into a different position. Do you have thoughts on that?
It's a start. I mean, you obviously can't trim the budget that as much as they're wanting to trim it by doing that. But that's a good move to combine some of those services and that leadership skills, those supervisory skills, because the emergency management gets placed onto the rural fire chief, to me, that's a good move. They work hand in hand. A lot of that is cross-training that's done anyway. The ICS, the Incident Command System, and I know that that's something that the fire chief is required to have, and it goes hand in hand with that position. As far as Kerry McHugh moving over to the public health, and I don't know much about the health industry, obviously, but it sounds like it's a good move to meld him into that position. And does it save the county a whole lot of money overall? No, but it's a start because you have to trim the fat where you can.
What was major factors in you deciding that you wanted to seek the county commission position?
Well, I've always been interested in it for years. However, with my last job, I was not allowed to run for a paid political office. And so I could not do that until after I retired. And I don't know, I just want to be part of the county leadership on that respect. And it's just something that for years that I've made a goal to someday become a county commissioner, even before moving to Ellis County.
Very nice. When you look at the position coming in, what's something that you have a focus on that maybe you think that if we can find a way to get in the budget or something we need to improve, or I know that you have a couple different backgrounds, law enforcement and in the farming community now, or the oil industry. Is there something you focus in on coming in?
It's, of course, budget is a big item with the county commission, regardless if it's here or elsewhere. I have been attending meetings for quite a few months now, and it just appears to me like there's still some spending going on that maybe it's not necessary. There again, I don't have all the information, but face value and what the public sees, it seems like there's a lot of unnecessary spending even today. And what's the second part of your question?
That's a good question. I don't remember. Was there a second part? No. Is there a project that you would like to see maybe get some focus in on, if that's possible?
Well, one project, if you want to call it a project, I think we need to rebuild trust in the community and professionalism and communication within the ranks, if you will, with the commission to elected officials and county employees, as well as the county at large, the citizens. You have to listen to your constituents, and to be a good leader, you have to be a good listener. And if you don't listen, you can't lead.
You hit on one of the questions I was going to ask. It does seem, and there was that time where we didn't have a county administrator, and so it seemed like between the county commission and the department heads, there's kind of it's a little bit of a fracture, maybe some friction. How do you balance the county commission, who is elected, with somebody like the county treasurer? Because that's been a relationship that is kind of fractured a little bit. How do you balance those relationships?
Well, as a county commissioner, I think regardless of opinions and transactions going on, you have to treat each other with mutual respect. And that appears to be lacking from what I understand. And as a commissioner, you need to understand what guidelines there are and laws in place to govern or dictate to the county treasurer, for example, as to what they're allowed to do in their office, because the state obviously regulates that. And I think we've seen a little bit of that here. But I think a lot of it still goes back to communications. You have to listen, communicate, treat each other with mutual respect, and not only the elected officials, but the employees, and like I said, with the people out in the community, because you have to be reachable and be able to talk to people and listen to people. And it doesn't matter if you're working at McDonald's, you're still a citizen of Ellis County, and you still have concerns that affect your life. And we have to be aware of that.
We talked about oil valuations going down, and it's hurting the bottom line, the budget. How do you balance that really thin line of providing services, because the community has said numerous times that it's important that they have, ambulances in Victoria and Ellis, or, whatever service it is, whether it's quick service through the treasurer's line or the county elections when you go and you register to vote. How do you balance a budget that is it's hurt right now, and then you also have to establish the services that make people happy? How do you balance that thin line?
It's difficult, obviously, and you asked me earlier about the current commission, and that's without having intimate knowledge of the budget numbers. But you have to trim where you can, and need to put no in the vocabulary again. And some of these projects, I happened to attend a meeting where the outside agencies and entities came and requested funding, and I don't know the history with all of that. I know some of it's state mandated as far as having like mental health services, but some of these others, you want to be part of the community as a county and you want to help, but unfortunately, no may become necessary to tell some of those folks and say, we're sorry, we cannot do this.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that is important to you that you want to talk about that we haven't shed light on that you think we need to?
Oh, there's probably a whole gamut of things, but I mean, I can shed some light on myself. I believe on doing what's right, regardless of its popularity, because sometimes things aren't popular, but you have to do them anyway. Right. And on the flip side of that, just because it's popular, it's the wrong thing to do. So we have to say no to some things. And but with my leadership and supervisory experience over the years, even way back to the oil field days, I know the pains of being a leader, but I know the rewards of it. And obviously, as a commissioner, sometimes it can be a thankless job, and because everybody obviously will not agree with decisions that you make, but sometimes you have to make hard decisions for the right reasons.
That's all the questions I had.
Okay.
That's it. How long? Because you said you worked for the Highway Patrol, right?
Yeah.
How long did you work for the Highway Patrol?
I was with the patrol for 25 years, and I was at Johnson County Sheriff's Office down there for 3 years. I was 27 and a half years total in law enforcement.
What did you have what was your specific area that you covered for Highway Patrol, or did you move around?
Well, I moved out to Hayes 11 years ago.
Okay.
And I was a supervisor back in eastern Kansas, like Lawrence, Ottawa area. I was they call it a zone supervisor. Then I took a lateral transfer out here. I was directly in charge of Ellis and Russell counties, but at times, such as like this state, emergency management and whatnot, they had the state divided up into sectors, and we had the northwest corner, which we had 18 counties. So I was like, as we called it, a zone commander. I was the supervisor on duty for 18 counties in northwest Kansas.